Okay, so here we are in TinkerCAD, and what we're going to make is kind of a cylindrical, a little box here. This is about 2 inches high, so it's the kind of thing you could throw maybe some earrings or guitar picks or SD cards or maybe a little change in there. But it's just kind of a neat thing, and you can see I put my initials there as well on the bottom of the lid, which is a little bit easier than putting them on the top of the lid for a number of reasons. But based on the fact that you've already done a bunch of things like your name tag and a few other tutorials, this shouldn't be too hard. So if I create a new design, takes a minute to boot up, of course. All right, and the first thing I'm going to do is bring a cylinder in here. And the first thing I notice about that cylinder is that the measurements are in metric, which I don't like. I'm going to go to my grid, edit grid, and change it to inches. And then when I click on these boxes here, it allows me to change the measurements. 2 inches by 2 inches. And that's my 2-inch round cylinder. I want it to be about 1.5 inches high. Oops, got to click in the box there. That always gets me. Unless it's highlighted, it won't. So that's a 1.5 inch high by 2 inch diameter cylinder right there. Very cool. All right. Now I want to put a hole inside there that's just a little bit smaller than that, so it leaves a rim around the inside. That's going to be the hole that my box becomes, the space inside the box. So I'm going to make another cylinder here, and instead of 1, I'm going to make this 1.75. Make this 1.75. And I might make this just a little bit taller. I might make this 2.2 or something. Yeah, 2.25. Just so it's a little bit taller than this guy. And then I'm going to drag him over. Zoom out a little bit. And try to put this cylinder here inside this guy. And it's not that easy. So what I want to do is just kind of highlight both of these guys and click on this align tool. And if I click here and here, that should center it. Those 2 center points there should center it pretty well. Okay. And now I can click out of the align tool. And if I make this one here into a hole, not the whole thing, darn it. I don't want these guys grouped. Group. Oops. Undo. Ungroup. So this guy here, I should be able to lift up a little bit and make him a hole. Ha! There it goes. Now, how high did I lift it up? It looks like I lifted it up just a little bit off of the bottom, so I have a bit of a space on the bottom there that'll make sure things don't drop out of my box. And if I click out here, give it a second to render, group it, shazam, I've got myself a cylinder with a hole in the middle of it, and you can see this edge is pretty uniform all the way around. All right, now I got to make the lid, which is the tricky part. So if you didn't think that was tricky, hold on to your hat, because it's going to get a little crazy. All right. So I'm going to bring a cylinder over. For some reason he's on the wrong side of the work plane. I'll do that. Good. Click on it. Make it 2. Make this 2. Off my work plane there. Let's see if I can move this guy over a little bit. Get him a little closer there. Excellent. And I'm going to make him 0.25 inches tall. Oops. Click on that box. I say oops a lot, huh? All right, there we go. So there's going to be what you see on top of this. But we've got to make a cylinder inside of it that allows you to have a nice tight fit for your lid. So I need to make another cylinder on top of here that's just a little bit smaller in diameter. So grab my work plane, set it right there. So there's my work plane. Grab a cylinder, bring it on top of there. Okay, that's a little tall. I'm going to make that 0.25 as well. And now I'm going to make it, if you recall, this was 1.75. So I'm going to make this 1.7. Make this 1.7. Gives me about 5/100ths space for wiggle room, so my lid should fit inside there. Right now I got a bit of a problem because this guy is certainly not centered. So if I highlight these two pieces, click on my align tool here, and click the center there, and click the center there. Now that guy is aligned, and it should fit in there. Let's bring our work plane back to the bottom of this. Great, so these guys are on the same work plane. Looks like it's floating a little bit there. There we go. It's right flat on that work plane. Good. Okay, so here I am with my round box, and it occurred to me after the fact that I can actually do this. See how these letters are protruding? Okay, they're sticking out. I could actually do those initials. Sometimes they call it a monogram. You've seen monograms on a towel or a bathrobe or something with your initials in it. I could have them in the bottom of the lid as long as they're not sticking out, what we call recessed. In other words, going in towards the meat of the lid, what we would also call a hole, as we were working with some of these shapes before, the same way we made a hole for that cylinder to make that a round box. So quickly, I'm going to ungroup all this business. Hopefully, it lets me select just these letters. No? Do I got to ungroup that too? Yeah. Okay, I can delete that SMP. And now, my work plane is already on the bottom here. I'm going to grab my text, drag it down there. Ooh, that's pretty big. Make it much, much smaller. Oops. Again, it's kind of tricky working in the perspective here because you're sort of upside down on things. You got to kind of rotate it around a little bit. Kind of make that a little bit smaller, a little bit wider. I think if I highlight it like this, I should be able to use my align tool. Get that guy nice and centered there. Now, the deal is I don't want it protruding like that. We already talked about that. So what I need is to pull it up a little ways and then turn it into a hole. And if I do that, and I group the, oh, no, didn't mean to do that. Good old undo. Let's see if I can just highlight these pieces here and group them. When I turn it over, there it is. It says text. Now, you know, I would put my initials. I would put SMP or whatever your initials would be. In fact, if I ungroup, shape text, I could do that. Let me try this. Ha, look at me. I ought to teach this stuff. Again, it's a little low there, so I'm going to push it up so it's inside. Grab these objects, group them. And when you turn it, you can see there's my initials. It's not going all the way through the box. And since they're recessed, meaning a hole versus bumping out of the lid, it should work very nicely for you. So you should be able to do that. This lid, and I might even group this whole thing now before I go ahead and export it with your name on it and show it to your teacher before you have them print it, because you can have a few other choices of projects you may want to print. All right, but that's how you get your initials or a name or some sort of letters onto the front of there, the top of the lid of the round box. All right, good luck.